You're watching the Battered Fans Network.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 32 of the Battered MLS Fans podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Granada. Alongside me, I got three other MLS Battered fans. Let me start from my left to your right. Mr. Eric from LAFC. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Another day in smoke clearing paradise down here in Southern California. So
that's right. How's that going?
Oh, in all seriousness,
it's getting better. Oh, really? Okay.
Shit.
Yeah. No, it's better now, but nobody.
It's clearing.
Everybody from here knows somebody who lost a house, and for an area this big, that says a lot. Yeah, they're bad, but it's cleared up. We're ready to get into preseason. People, sometimes you guys have bad hurricanes there. Sometimes disasters happen, and we try to pull together as a community and help out as many people as we can, and keep them all in our thoughts and prayers.
You know what? That's true. And I was having this conversation with my wife, though. We live in Miami, and we know when something's coming, though. Like, we have a week to prepare. Like, what happened over there was just one moment to the next. That's rough, man. My thoughts and prayers with everybody over there affected, because I know a lot of people. And Todd, you're in Philly, and I know nothing really happens over there other than your franchise hating your fans. How's it going over there in Philly, Todd?
Got to go a little bit farther south. I'm technically in Maryland.
He's in Maryland.
Oh.
So he's actually by where another big thing.
Yeah, right. Last night, right, with the plane crash. I mean, we're getting off to a great start with this episode, just talking about tragedies. I mean, I don't know. It's a chaotic world that we live in, right? Where you look at the fires in LA, and I feel like that's a distant thought in people's minds because it's not as covered anymore in the news. And then it's on to the next tragedy where they're talking about, or I guess even before the plane crash, right? It went from the wildfires in LA to the freezing cold down south and all the snow in like New Orleans, Texas, Florida. And then now last night we get this plane crash. I mean, it's a crazy time that we live in, and I'm glad that we get to have sports to talk about tonight, just to get our minds off of the chaotic world that we live in. And I'm grateful for you guys to give us something to just distract all this terrible news going on in the world.
Yeah, and then I'll go to Chris real quick. One other thing that happened, and I'm not going to get too deep into it, but
I was just about to I was going to bring it up just to round out the misery.
Yeah, exactly. Because Miami's building their stadium now. And Chris, what happened today where they were building the stadium?
I do it like I did in the last show, but I might drop the water on my keyboard again. ICE showed up at where we're building Miami Freedom Park and ended up trying to take, I don't know if they took people or not, but ICE definitely showed up.
Everybody's talking about how maybe we won't get the stadium by 2026, but I'm sure it'll be fine. They'll figure things out.
Yeah, we'll be good.
Right, but so something going on all over the place. So let's talk about happy things. We finally found out our domestic tournaments and who will be playing in them. But before we get into the domestics, I did want to touch real quick base, because we haven't had Eric and Todd on here to talk about it, even though I'm sure that you guys are going to agree with what everybody else has said on the show. The Club World Cup, Seattle Sounders, Inter Miami. Is there any hope in your minds that one of those two teams can go far in the tournament? And second, do you think it's going to be as hyped up as people think it is? Because I personally don't think that it is going to be as big of a spectacle as people are expecting it to be. I'll start with Eric. Do you think it is?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as big of a spectacle for us here in CONCACAF or North America. I think for some of the Liga MX teams in it, it'll be definitely more hyped than here. But as a huge Brasileiro fan, I know in South America, to win the Club World Cup is the ultimate prize that there is in the game. And especially being a Palmeiras fan, the one team that this has eluded, it is the sorest point in their club is that they've never won the Mundial. And so I know, for example, with Palmeiras, Tia Leila had been trying to get Gabriel Jesus from Arsenal, offered $40 million for him. And, following Libertadores teams, like nobody offers $40 million for a European player to come to South America. Like, that's pretty much unprecedented. Arsenal refused. But so for the South American Libertadores fans, this tournament is going to be a massive deal. I think for American fans that are really into their European clubs, I think it's going to be a great tournament for them as well. I think for the MLS fans, it's going to kind of be a whatever because, I mean, Miami and Seattle, I will predict are going to get completely put behind the woodshed in this tournament. Most of the Liga MX teams will as well because, I mean, there's absolute powerhouses in this tournament. And the salary difference alone is going to be 20-1, 50-1 to some of these MLS sides.
What do you think, Todd?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the prize money. I mean, up to a little bit over $2 billion, I think, in total prize money. Each team's that just qualify $50 million. I mean, you're seeing the teams that qualify for this Club World Cup just go all out, especially the Brazilian teams like you were talking about there, Eric, where, it's kind of unheard of for the amount of spending that they're doing. But yeah, these teams have this money that they got just to qualify for the tournament and to further progress in this, you can set yourself up very, very nicely for the future. And I don't think the tournament's going to be as big as maybe FIFA's hoping. And I think, regardless if that would have been in America or not, just because, I mean, look at all the European teams. Pep Guardiola, I know, was a pretty big advocate of, this tournament maybe not potentially being a great thing for the players. The players have come out and said, we're basically playing all year round, and the injuries are going to be really bad. And going back to your question about, could Inter Miami or Seattle Sounders go on a run? I think Inter Miami has a chance out of the two teams, just because, I mean, anytime you have Messi in your squad, anytime you have Suarez, these are players that, aren't what they once were, but they're still game changers. And, they're players that have played in the biggest moments. And, when the lights are all on them, they show up in those moments. So I do think out of the two teams, Inter Miami is a team that could go decently far in this tournament.
I actually watched one of the episodes, Danny, that we had for the Battered MLS show. And I'm happy to see that a lot of the people that participate on the show, they say that we're going to support Seattle or Inter Miami.
Well, I don't think Todd or Eric said that yet. Were you guys going to support
not them. But okay. Before you brought this up, but I'm happy to see that a lot of people were just basically saying, look, we want the American representatives to go as far as possible. I'm with Todd. I mean, the Seattle Sounders have it harder than ever with the competition that they have to play. I mean, PSG, Botafogo, and Atletico, it's going to be tough for them. So Inter Miami does have the easier opponents. One thing I want to just read here is one of the comments. Sargent saying CWC is bigger than Champions League, because then he mentions whoever wins Champions League, and I imagine he either says call themselves world champions or can't call themselves world champions, which makes a little sense. No?
Yeah, it does. If I thought that the European clubs were going to take it seriously. But look, Carlo Ancelotti for Real Madrid said that he didn't even want to be a part of it. He doesn't want his team to be a part of it. After they've had a long season, hypothetically, let's say Real Madrid plays against, Bayern Munich in the UEFA Champions League final.
Well, I think they're going to be, but
that's right. They're playing each other right now. Yeah. But hypothetically, two teams that play in the final, all of a sudden they play. Do you think they're going to be up for playing a week later in a Club World Cup? Like teams for international tournaments, whether it be the World Cup, Copa America, the Euros, when they're representing their country, I don't think they mind playing during the summer after a long season. But they're not going to just extend the club season, especially if they might be a free agent or looking to transfer later on. Like I think it's going to be a dud, at least from the European side. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree with you, Danny. I think, like I just said, the seasons are so long, and you've seen players come out and talk about that. And look, even in MLS, we've had players, at least I know here in Philadelphia, and Andre Blake and Kai Wagner complain about how many games these teams are playing. The Union played over 50 games in 2023 in Leagues Cup, Champions Cup, the Open Cup, and MLS play. And then you throw the playoff system on top of that. And so, yeah, this is a lot of game that these players are playing. And yeah, the money aspect is a good reward for these players to, take it serious. But, at the same time too, these guys are humans, and they need rest, they need recovery. And I do think that we see, whether it be in MLS, whether it be in Europe or South American leagues, the more games you play, the quality in play starts to drop. And I don't think anybody in the comment section wants to see the quality drop. We all love soccer, but I think we could be okay with less games if it means higher quality of soccer.
Eric, do you think the fact that the European sides might bring their B team, right, players that didn't play as much, like I'm sure Real Madrid, I'm sure Endrick could get a lot of run if he participates. Like, do you think that they'll still dominate the MLS teams and the Liga MX teams and things like that?
Yeah, I do. But I say this, as a Palmeiras fan, they've been to the Club World Cup the last few years, not the last one, but before they were on like 3 in a row. So I watched them all, and I think we like to watch our league so much. I think it's easy to forget that like the bench of a Chelsea or Bayern Munich, these teams are so overpowered that they can even against the Palmeiras or a Botafogo, they can halfway rotate their team and they should still win comfortably. Like for anybody other than the Champions League winner, like this, it requires a big upset to win. Do upsets happen? The upsets are capable of happening. They can happen all the time. But the teams that we're talking about upsetting Champions League winners are the teams that the upset for one of our teams to beat them is just as big of a stretch. So that's, with me watching the tournament, I mean, the level of competition is really insane. I mean, just to see your team play against these guys should be a huge thrill. Don't go into there with expectations that you're going to boat race this tournament or anything like that, because we're probably going to get stomped. But it's going to be fun to see because the games are competitive and actually mean something. It's not a friendly.
I just want to read off because hold on. Saturday, the 25th of January, 5 days ago, Chelsea and Man City played against each other. And just going through the bench. For Man City, John Stones, Kevin De Bruyne, and Jack Grealish. Off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, what are we doing?
No, but Man City's uber rich. Like they're ridiculous.
The question with them is like, what happened? When Man City plays Bayern or Man City plays Real Madrid or something like that, like these are the games where I think this tournament's going to be really, really interesting for the neutral fans. And I think, to see them come play a game here in the United States for an actual big trophy, like, we're going to get to see more than just these guys come on for the last 10 minutes of the game,
Well, and another thing, and we can get off of it after this, but Kevin De Bruyne, you just brought up, he's free to go wherever he wants this summer. Do you really think he's going to jeopardize his body to represent Man City in this tournament a month before he can choose somewhere else to go and get a paycheck? Absolutely not. There's no chance that he puts his body on the line. If it was for his country, if he was playing for Belgium, possibly, but not for Man City. So, I think it might be a disappointment compared to what I think a lot of people are expecting.
I think it's just a weird thing that you can tell some of the more superior teams are going to probably come with their B team when you have sort of the inferior teams, as people would like to look at them, holding off on their A team in the couple games prior to be able to bring their A team.
They're not
versus.
I don't think that whoever starts the tournament, I think ended. I don't think that their A team is going to be waiting to like, hey, the season ended, but I'm going to take 2 weeks off and then come play. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But here we go. We found out what teams are participating in our domestic tournaments. I mean, we could talk about Canadian Championship real quick. We got those 3 teams included in. I mean, those are 3 MLS teams that are included, and they have their own tournament. We're not going to talk too much about them. So let's start with Concacaf Champions Cup. They have 10 teams, and let's see. And here it is. So we got Cincy, Colorado, Columbus, LAFC, Galaxy, Inter Miami, RSL, Seattle, KC, which is ridiculous, and the Whitecaps. Now, we already knew that these teams were participating in the CCC. But, Eric, were you surprised that you're not going to be just playing in the CCC, but that you have another tournament added to this?
No, I mean, but as Todd was saying earlier, with the Union playing 50 games in 2023, I think that same season we actually played 56 games, which I think is the full MLS record for most games in a season by a team. So they like to work our teams without giving us extra roster slots, and then we just have to deal with it how we deal with it. So I'm not super surprised we have the extra stuff. Not defending our Open Cup champion is I think we're the first team that's not going to have opportunity to defend an Open Cup since like 2006. So that'll be an interesting one. More so with this Champions Cup, what I dislike about it is that our first three opponents, if we go through, are all MLS sides. We open with Colorado. If we win that, I believe then we have Miami. And then our other bracket most likely will play Carson after that. So it's, in some ways, it's kind of looking more like the Leagues Cup where we're just playing all MLS teams again.
Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
I think that was done for Miami. I think if you look at the bracket, and I'll try to put it up, and I honestly believe, right, conspiracy theory, when you look at the four quadrants, that is the only one that has no Mexican teams. The only non-MLS team on that side, I believe, is Cavalier from Jamaica. That's it. All other MLS teams. And Miami somehow ended up playing against Sporting KC, which almost got the wooden spoon last year. So I definitely think that they want to see Miami advance far in the tournament next year, and they gave them the path to do it by putting them up against KC. If they beat KC, they play against Cavalier, which is the Jamaican champions, and then they would play against either LAFC, Columbus, Galaxy, or whoever else is. I forget what other MLS teams are there. And then people in that side of the bracket don't play against the Mexican team until the semifinal, where you might play against Monterrey or Pumas. So I think that is why that happened that way.
Yeah, I know with LAFC fans, there's a lot of opting out on this one. Like a lot of the season ticket holders, we have to choose to opt out of tournaments, otherwise we go through. And there's so many MLS matchups in these continental competitions, like over and over and over. And I believe I was on here griping about this not that long ago about Leagues Cup. It's just like, man, can we stop playing Vancouver all the time?
It's overkill.
But they stopped it this year.
And here we are.
But when we get to Leagues Cup, we'll talk about that. But they stopped that this year for Leagues Cup, at least.
They did. No, this is true. This is true. And Daniel, did I see you kind of saying there's some Miami favoritism going on here?
Oh, I'll never hide it. Absolutely. I know what they want to do. Todd, how are you feeling about the Champions Cup before we get into the other two new news?
Man, I think if I'm a team that's not one of these 10 MLS teams, I'm a little bit disappointed just because, I'm so glad that Eric brought up the prize money for the FIFA World Cup. And I think that's probably going to be a point that I make a lot for these tournaments is the prize money. And I think that's something that the fans don't pay a lot of attention to, but the players do. I mean, the winner for this competition, up to $5 million for winning the Concacaf Champions Cup. So, I mean, that's a significant amount of money for a club. And I'm sure, that gets divided however the club's divided up to the players and whatnot. But still, if you're a player that's playing on one of these MLS teams, why wouldn't you want to go all out for this competition? And here in North America, this is it. This is our Champions League, where this is the best team in Concacaf Champions Cup. And so I think, Columbus Crew, I think, have something to prove last year, especially with the way it ended for them against Pachuca with the flu, whatever that was, the breakout down there. Cincinnati retooled this offseason. I know there's reports out there that Luciano Acosta is going to be on his way back to Argentina, it looks like. Into Miami, obviously have something to prove too, right? Because as you and Chris know, Danny, and all the Inter Miami fans that are here too, right? The reason you guys go out and get a Lionel Messi, you guys go out and get a Luis Suarez is to win these big major competitions, to win every single trophy that's possible. And has that happened for Inter Miami? Yeah, it hasn't happened yet. And you're right, absolutely. Selling jerseys is a big part of that. But, like I said, where we were talking about the Concacaf, the FIFA Club World Cup, big moments for Suarez and Messi, and they show up in those moments, and I'm sure the players, the fans, the staff, all disappointed with the way that it went for the Concacaf Champions Cup last year, and I think this is kind of their revenge tour this year.
And I totally agree with that. That's why go ahead, Danny.
No, I was just gonna say that I put the bracket up.
Yeah,
I was just gonna. You got to watch the YouTube.
Yeah, I mean the bracket right here is beautiful. I mean it's the quadrant that you were talking about right up here, guys. I mean there's literally no team from Liga MX until the semifinals. Like it is mapped out perfectly. It's scary.
Yeah, look, you got Tigres on the bottom right. You got Club America and Cruz Azul up on the top right. Bottom left, you got Monterrey and Pumas. And then top left, we have LAFC, Columbus, Rapids, Miami, Sporting KC, and then Cavalier just randomly in there. So, I said, so far, conspiracy theory.
So far, the Seattle Sounders are getting shafted in 2 out of 2 tournaments we talked about. That's what it kind of looks like so far.
Yeah.
No, am I wrong?
No, I'm with you. But you brought up the fact that Eric that a lot of LAFC fans might be opting out. It's funny you say that because here in Miami, ticket sales for that tournament aren't that great either. So they started giving tickets away to season ticket holders.
Wow.
So
got an email.
We never get free tickets on our season ticket holders, but like I said, it's the whole thing with these we just want to see our teams play non-MLS teams because we play MLS teams, 2 to 5 times every single season, and it just gets so beaten to death. It's like, man, when we went down to Alajuelense, we had 2,000 fans completely take over a whole section, and these are the things we want to live for as fans, are like the trips to Central America, but trip to Columbus for this is like, come on.
Well, if you want, let's move over to Todd's favorite tournament, the Open Cup. So Open Cup is here, and before I get to Eric, because it's very interesting what's happening with LAFC, and I know you touched on it already, Eric, but Todd, what do you think about the Open Cup and the fact that not all the teams are participating, but we do have some?
Yeah, 16 MLS teams participating this year. That's up from the 8 that participated last year. And then you have 10 MLS Next Pro. And actually, before I had jumped on here with you guys, I was talking to my friend Jose Nunez. And, if I'm a player and, we'll stick with Philadelphia Union, this is the only competition that they will be in this year out of the potential tournaments this year. And, if I'm a player, I'm pretty pissed, or at least I would be pissed, because if you look at the prize money for winning this whole tournament, and the Union have been to 3 finals in the US Open Cup, and I know fans are just dying for the club to get back and hopefully win a trophy someday in the US Open Cup, but the winning team in US Open Cup gets $300,000. The runner-up gets $100,000, and you look at the shares for Leagues Cup, and I know we're talking plenty of Leagues Cup, but it's every game you play in Leagues Cup, teams get $100,000, and then every win you get in a Leagues Cup, it's $50,000, and so you're looking at a potential $150,000 per game per win, and that's a lot of money going back to the players. And so if I'm a player looking at a player perspective, I'm pissed if I'm a Philadelphia Union player that, look, not only did we not make the playoffs last year in MLS, where it seems like the whole league makes it, but we also didn't qualify for Leagues Cup, and that's a decent amount of money that I'm missing out on because, look, you're not getting paid playing in the U.S. Open Cup. Yes, you have your MLS salary, but those bonuses for playing in the U.S. Open Cup aren't there like they are in the Leagues Cup. And so if I'm a player, I'm pretty disappointed. But I think, looking past the money aspect where fans are just looking at it, oh, finally, we're back in U.S. Open Cup. But, yeah, I think fans are pretty excited about this. And Union fans, we were talking off air, it's been a quiet offseason for the Philadelphia Union. And I think if you ask the majority of the fan base, they say no way in hell that they have a chance at winning Supporters Shield this year. MLS Cup, maybe US Open Cup, but it's been a quiet offseason for the Union. I don't even know if Union fans are confident that the Philadelphia Union could potentially win US Open Cup this year. One interesting tidbit, though, is the Philadelphia Union were one of the 8 teams selected to host in the round of 32. MLS teams are entering in that round, and the Union haven't had a US Open Cup home game since 2018. So, all these fans, and you guys were talking about getting free tickets for the Leagues Cup, and Union fans protested that last year, stopped showing up, and the Union front office ticket rep people gave season ticket members a free game to their opening game of Leagues Cup, and then after that, you pay for it. And attendance was down for Leagues Cup because people were like, we want the US Open Cup, we want the US Open Cup. So now look, fans get exactly what they wanted. They get the US Open Cup, and we'll see if fans show up. If I'm a betting man, I would say that stadium is going to be half full, and I think that would be the same for the rest of these other MLS clubs participating in the US Open Cup.
You brought up the money that the players make in other tournaments like the Leagues Cup and how you would be upset if you were just in the Open Cup. Do you think that there's a chance? Because a lot of people say that the playoffs don't mean anything, right? Because everybody makes it. Does that make it a little bit more does it give you more of an incentive to just try to make the playoffs just so you could participate in the Leagues Cup so you could be possibly get that money?
Yeah, absolutely. And, that there was the whole argument to the players for when Leagues Cup was re-brought back in is like, okay, look, you want us to stop our season during the middle of this year. And I know that's not happening this year with Leagues Cup. League play in Liga MX and MLS will still be going on while this tournament's going on. And don't worry, I have a lot of thoughts if, I'm an LAFC fan too, because I'm not happy if I'm an LAFC fan. When you look at the schedule, they have to go on the East Coast to play New England. And then you mean to tell me that we have to potentially fly all the way back West Coast to play a Leagues Cup game? Ridiculous travel if I'm an LAFC fan, but I'm sure Eric has thoughts, and we'll talk about that when we talk about Leagues Cup. But yeah, absolutely. The money factor is a big part for these players to take Leagues Cup serious. I mean, a lot of money has been invested into this tournament, and if I don't want to jump ahead because I'm not a fan of the Leagues Cup, and honestly, the US Open Cup, it is what it is. I respect it that it's the oldest cup competition in America, third oldest in the world. But at the same time, just look at these attendance figures all around the league every single year. Fans don't take this tournament serious, and you have your people on social media that make the US Open Cup out to be this great tournament, but the fans that show up to these games don't have the same sentiment that the fans make you believe on social media.
Yeah. Eric, your team is the defending Open Cup champions, and they won't be able to defend it. Now, I know you touched on it before, but how does the fan base in general feel about the Open Cup this year and the fact that you guys can't defend your title? Would you have preferred to be in the Open Cup than the Leagues Cup?
Speaking for myself personally, and I love the Open Cup. I drove 5 hours to Monterey Bay for our Open Cup match there back in 2023, which was a match that we basically played our second team because that's the year we had a ton of contests. For me, since we won it last year, this trophy's in our cabinet. So, I'm looking at what we have. Obviously, Champions Cup is it has to be our number one target.
Of course.
And I also think MLS Cup has to be another target again. So looking at what we have with Open Cup, it's not as much of a priority as me. Last season, when we weren't playing for that much, Open Cup, as I imagined with Philadelphia, and Todd was kind of implying, like, this should be a huge target for them because this is the trophy that they are competing for. And with all these other teams not really bringing their first teams into it, it does make your odds a little better. So that being said, I love the Open Cup. I think that this tournament is very poorly managed. And I've been one to say that, when Don Garber complains about Open Cup and U.S. Soccer not doing a good enough job, I'm inclined to agree with him on this. U.S. Soccer does put out its financials. And if you look at it, they generated in 2023 $1.9 million in revenue from Open Cup with expenditures of $1.7 million. So U.S. Soccer made money on this tournament, and I would be shocked if anybody else made money off it. I think MLS teams lose money sending their players to this tournament. They have to play their players' salaries to play these games, and the prize money doesn't cover it. The travel doesn't cover it. Some of these fields are not good fields. Some of them are very good. The Monterey game the USL games tend to be a packed house when they're played in their venues, but these stadiums a lot of times only hold 5,000-6,000 people, sometimes more. But I don't know how to make this tournament work. It's the oldest trophy competed for in American sports. I think the history of it is absolutely beautiful, and it's kind of one of those reasons why the beautiful game is held in the regard it is because of the history of some tournaments like this. But the financial side, I think U.S. Soccer it basically just uses this to make a little bit of money off it, but it's not their money maker is the national teams, and that's where they spend their money promoting and doing that. So this tournament is just kind of like the kid that nobody cares about. And so
they keep it going because of the tradition.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good to keep it open. And, a lot of people talk about, that this should be the cup that's one game that's focused on. But at the same time, last season, things got streamed on U.S. Soccer. And we'd see some of the early games in this because I watched. And the stands are pathetically empty at these games. So if people aren't going to the games, there's no prize money at these games. And basically, MLS and probably USL teams to some extent are basically paying money to have their players do these games. Like, what good is it doing anybody? It's, it's a fair point that this tournament is horribly ran and it needs to get ran better. And so I'm in all favor of like finding somebody that really wants to take this Open Cup and turn it into a spectacular showcase of soccer up and down the divisions here, which is what it should be. But whoever this is hasn't came forward to do it yet. And I pray to the sky that someday somebody's going to come along and make this tournament what we all know it should be, and it's just not right now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Sorry to cut you off there, Chris.
You're good.
It has a lot of history, and I think the excitement of an amateur team gets to play against a professional team, and I try to look at things from the player perspective, because again, I think that gets overlooked a lot by fans is the financial side of things, and then also too, if you're one of these amateur players playing against a professional team where the scouts aren't going to be at your amateur games and everything, you have a chance to impress and get more eyes on you, and so that excitement there, the amateurs playing against the professional teams, and then that potentially leads to a higher career move for some of those amateur players. I love that and everything. And you're right. This tournament doesn't have the greatest backing, and last year they struggled to find a TV partner. I think CBS finally came on board and said, we'll share some of these games on TV. And thank God for CBS here in America. It seems like they're picking up every single soccer game you can possibly imagine other than MLS. But I agree with you, Eric. The financial aspect that U.S. Soccer is not putting into this and not advertising this. I saw some comments in the chat on YouTube complaining about that. There needs to be better advertisement. U.S. Soccer needs to do a better job. And, they're letting the fans that do care about this tournament down.
Chris?
Look, Danny and I went to go watch Inter Miami play against Miami FC in Florida International University, where they housed 20,000 people, and there was maybe 20 people. I mean, it was really embarrassing. Now,
but that was pretty messy.
It was pretty messy, but still, there was a lot of people who were in love with the U.S. Open Cup. It's like what Eric said. If things were prepared or done in a different way, this tournament does have the potential to be able to carry forth its history, its value, and actually mean something, right? But I'm looking at the recent years. Spoiler alert, I don't see anybody that's not an MLS team winning. There hasn't been a winner outside of the MLS since 2004,
and that's
20 years ago.
And there were only 8 MLS teams participating last year,
and that was the Kansas City Wizards. Since then, it's been MLS teams versus MLS teams.
The Kansas City Wizards is Sporting KC.
Well, back then, they were the Kansas City Wizards.
Yeah, so I'm saying, but it was still MLS.
Yeah, they were an original MLS team.
Yeah.
Oh, so then if we go back, then we go to 1999, the Rochester Rhinos.
Yep, that was the last time.
Rest in peace,
Yeah.
the Rhinos.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think they
other
went
than
under
that,
like 2 years ago.
you have a sprinkle of your, Charleston Battery. I mean, rest in peace them. And then you have your Sacramento Republics. But other than that, like, there hasn't been a strong representation of non-MLS teams in this tournament. And so, like, what does everybody want? The parity? Does everybody want? It's weird to ask for something and nobody supports it.
I think that look, there are some hardcore soccer fans in this country, but there are a lot that aren't, and they just casually watch the MLS. And if you're an Americanized sports fan, you're not accustomed to seeing professional teams play against minor league teams, and that's not something that necessarily brings your attention. So I understand the love of the upset from the lower division team possibly beating the upper division team, but I honestly think that doesn't catch the casual fan, and that's why it does so poorly. Now, if hypothetically one of these I keep saying NXT, I keep thinking wrestling, next pro teams, if one of those teams were to win the tournament, would that possibly make things look worse for the Open Cup? Because I feel like if one of these teams can win it, then or I mean, I guess they're playing against MLS.
But then what do you want? Like, what do you want? Do you want MLS?
I want the whole tournament to just be next pro teams. That's what I want.
But then everybody else is going to complain because they don't want to play against the next pro teams. They want to play against the MLS teams.
Eric, do you think it would be wrong for me to say that I want all the next pro teams to participate?
No, I don't think so. You want to know? I have a little conspiracy theory why that will never happen. Because if they did that, I think we would start seeing USL teams win this tournament and go into the Concacaf Champions League. And I think MLS is still, despite kind of being frenemies a little bit, MLS is trying to bury USL. They would rather get rid of that and kind of, I think, like, create a second division. That's my conspiracy theory. So I think they don't want to give USL that venue to get into the Champions League tournament. So that's why I think they'll always keep some MLS teams there, because they absolutely don't want USL to win it.
You're on it. You're on it, Eric. That's really good.
But if we put all next pro teams in there and then USL still can't win, I feel that says more about the USL and the inferiority.
I think USL teams are going to beat MLS 2 teams 80% of the time plus. There will be years that MLS 2 team wins, but I think USL will win it more just because the players there, the MLS Next tend to be teenagers and less experienced.
Yeah, they're older.
You're going to find more veteran players at USL that in these big moments are just going to mentally, like, they've been there a little bit and will be able to overcome that way, I think.
That makes a lot of sense, though. I can definitely see something like that, Danny. I mean, you have teams like, look, Orlando City was like spying on Sacramento Republic, like, New England Patriots style. And they almost lost. Or, well, not almost lost, but.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you say that, because I remember they had a game the weekend before and they got rescheduled. And they said, because I don't remember the explanation, but it was basically because they wanted to make sure that they had time to get ready for Sacramento, because they could not afford the MLS not winning and beating the USL team. So, Orlando won the Open Cup that year. Yeah. All right. So moving on from the Open Cup and going on to.
You were going to mention something, Todd?
No, I'm good.
Oh, I thought you were going to drop bombs. Sorry about that. I totally just bulldozed Danny.
Go ahead. Leagues Cup. I much prefer Leagues Cup over Open Cup. I know I am in the minority. John here loves the Open Cup. I'm not a fan. Can I tell you a theory real quick why I think it works in England? I think it works in England, the Open Cup, because it's such a small country that there's like 30,000 teams in London. So it's like all neighborhood teams playing against each other. So I think that there's more passion there when you play against the team that's down the street. Here, when we play against Phoenix Rising, like there's nothing there. You're just playing against a random lower division team. So I think that's what kills it. I know a lot of people were expecting me to say Alabama, Birmingham, but I didn't.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
So anyway.
yeah, I agree with you, right? It's like that local connection, that passion, and isn't that a bad thing then for MLS to not get out to these communities more and build that local connection with their fan base, where you see it all the time in England? And I know, these lower league, lower division teams in US do a little bit better of a job than the MLS teams does, but isn't that a bad look for MLS to not have, the connection with the fan base like some of these teams, these lower leagues over in England does with their fan base?
But I think in England it's just done organically because you're so close in proximity. Here they would have to figure out how to create that, and it's going to be difficult. Like I said, this country's way too big to have people care about the lower divisions. Like, look, Inter Miami plays Miami FC, and nobody cares. Like, there's nothing there. We just don't care, and I think it's more of an American thing because you don't really see, and I say it all the time, we don't see the Yankees playing against the Jumbo Shrimp. Nobody wants to see that. So, all right, but we can move on from the Open Cup. Leagues Cup. I'm a Leagues Cup fan. I know a lot of people aren't. I wish that they would play in Mexico. But I will tell you that I did not expect Inter Miami to be part of the Leagues Cup this year because they're already playing in 2 other tournaments. But they were thrown into this tournament also, along with 18 other teams. Eric, what were your first thoughts when you saw that you were part of the Leagues Cup and not the Open Cup?
Oh, I also am a Leagues Cup fan. I have been since the beginning, and I think we are
you're outnumbered.
Minority, but it just so happens that I like the Leagues Cup, and
Me too.
this might be something where being in LA, we have a little different perspective on it because we have such a heavy Latino community, particularly with roots in Mexico, that whenever a Liga MX team comes and plays here, it's very hard for us to hold our stadium. And if you know one thing about LAFC, it's that our stadium is a fortress. Like, usually you cannot hear a peep from other fans. But when Club Leon comes in, when Cruz Azul comes in, Club America comes in, we struggle just to keep the 50% there because, those are such enthusiastic fan bases. So when it comes to that, I want to see LAFC play more Liga MX teams. Like, that's to me what I love about Leagues Cup. I don't really care about us playing any MLS teams in this tournament. If I just want to see us play teams that we don't play a lot. So if this happens, I get super excited about the tournament. If we end up playing Vancouver and Colorado in this tournament, it's like, come on, why do I need to pay a 50% markup for my tickets to watch the 4th time we play Colorado and Vancouver? It's bullshit. So I like the move this year to balance it out, to make it an even number of teams. As it goes through the rounds, I'm sure it's not going to hold up like that, but it's a move in the right direction. I also agree. I would love to see us play these games down in Mexico as well. But as I said the first year, I don't think this happens until Messi leaves MLS. I think once Messi leaves MLS, these games are magically start occurring down in Mexico as well.
I would love that. And sorry to cut you off, Todd, but I was just going to say real quick, they have guaranteed that each league will play against the opposing league. For the first phase, all 3 games will be against teams. MLS teams will play Liga MX teams the first 3 games, and in the first knockout game, it will also be MLS versus Liga MX. I'm not sure. I haven't taken a deep dive. I unfortunately didn't have a chance to today to see how the logistics work. I don't know if any of you guys did, but that's what they're saying. That to me makes it already more interesting than it's been in the past, because I'm gonna get to see my team play against 3 other teams that we never play against. I do wish it was in Mexico, but I think that's a nice start. Todd, now you tell me, Todd, I love you. Let me know what you think. Don't hold back.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the rules. I mean, I'm still trying to get a grip on, all these tournament changes for Leagues Cup. I mean, every single year, the rules are changing with this league, and the rules are just so complicated this season. And the point that Eric's making, the point that you're making about you guys love your teams facing off against Liga MX teams, yeah, that's great and everything, but it feels so forced. I don't understand MLS soccer, American soccer fans' obsession with wanting to beat Liga MX, wanting to beat Mexican teams. It's like That's the whole reason why this tournament was created, for MLS teams to prove that they're better than Liga MX teams. How can you say you're better if you never go down to Mexico to play? This tournament's going to be completely different if you're going down to Mexico. Look at what happens in Concacaf Champions Cup. The MLS teams every single year struggle down there.
But that's not fair, because when they play in Champions Cup,
okay, yeah, I get it. Because MLS season is just starting, and then Liga MX teams are going to say the same thing about Leagues Cup. Okay, that's why we struggle in this.
Absolutely,
there's going to be no balance, and then I don't know if you guys saw it. It's looking more and more likely that MLS is going to change your schedule to a fall calendar with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
What's that do for these tournaments? We'll see what happens.
You got to have me on that show when we talk about that one.
Nah, I'm not a fan of that.
But yeah, just this whole thing just seems so forced to me. And it's like, I'd be fine with Leagues Cup being gone. I talked about, from the players' perspective, the money that's involved. That's great for the players and everything. That's to get the players to care for this tournament. But, if we got rid of the US Open Cup, if we got rid of the Leagues Cup, I'd be fine with Concacaf Champions Cup and MLS Cup. Those are the only two tournaments that matter. Those are the best tournaments. You win your league, that's great. And then if you win the Continental Tournament, that's even better. So I'd be fine without this make-believe cup that MLS and Liga MX. I feel like it's more MLS, so that's shoving this down our throats that wanted to get accepted by the fans in this country.
And John said it's designed to make money. I think most tournaments are designed to make money. But I personally don't look at it and think, and I don't know about Eric, can't speak for Eric, and I'll ask you in a second, Chris. I don't look at it as I want to play against Liga MX teams because I want to prove that we're better than Liga MX teams. I just want to not have what just happened in Champions Cup, where the first 3 games of the Champions Cup, if we make it out, we're playing against MLS team. Well, actually, we're playing against the Jamaican team, but then an MLS team again. I'm just glad that they're trying to look. This is a brand new tournament, and this is a brand new era of MLS soccer, and they're trying to do what's best and most entertaining. And I think this format, for me personally, I love that not all the teams are included in Leagues Cup. You got to earn your way. And I love that we're guaranteeing that we're going to play against different opponents along the way. I personally love what they're doing. And I like that they're not stopping the season for it either. So I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, that's a good thing too, right? I mean, the big complaint was, okay, why are we stopping our seasons? But at the same time, I brought it up 10 minutes ago. If I'm an LAFC fan, I'm pissed looking at the schedule, having to travel to the East Coast to play against New England. Now expecting to fly back over to the West Coast to play in this make-believe tournament. And then
why is it make-believe? Because it's brand new?
Because it's forced. It's
brand new, but it's better than the Open Cup.
Both tournaments are dumb.
Okay, I'm fair. Look, I'm okay with getting rid of all domestic tournaments and just having a regular season and a playoff. But that's not the way the football the football world works, unfortunately.
Like for me again, like the whole thing that I just want to see is my team play teams that are not in our league, and whether this format is the ideal format, I think is definitely a huge debate. Looking at it, if they took the Leagues Cup instead of just blocking off like a month of this tournament, if they spread it out throughout the season, and maybe even they make something this Leagues Cup more like a Europa style that's like not quite Champions League, but it's a little different, and add some Central American teams. Like, I think watching our teams play against other teams in CONCACAF and other leagues only helps us. It only helps other teams. It just makes for an interesting time. But this kind of whole 1 month block off is kind of a weird premise as well. And
it's terrible.
Chris, your thoughts on Leagues Cup?
I love the fact that the thing that you just mentioned, Danny, where they're making it so where MLS teams are playing Liga MX teams in the first round and so forth.
And Inter Miami's probably going to play against the lowest seeded Mexican teams. I could almost guarantee
probably. And I just want to mention, for those of you that are watching, and thank you guys so much for watching. Take the time, free 99, like and subscribe. We got 150 plus people watching on Twitter. Guys, jump over to the YouTube. I think we got like 10 people that need to subscribe so we can get to 900. Be nice. Subscribe. Okay, guys. Now, as far as Leagues Cup is concerned, I do think that it has a lot of potential to surpass US Open Cup in terms of like notoriety because there's better teams. I do like the fact that Liga MX is they're a very competitive league against us, but we have to be able to go to Mexico to play over there, man. It's just too lopsided when they have to come to the East Coast. It's like what Eric said. They go to the West. Yeah, they're more familiar with them. They're closer. They have a better fan base there. But on the East Coast, it's just way too lopsided.
Yeah, but look, there's a lot of fans that don't get to see their Mexican teams, and that shouldn't be, I guess, what makes that decision, even though the money involved, I guess, matters. But there's so many Mexican fans that are hard. They don't watch the MLS. They watch Liga MX. And this is their one opportunity to watch their team. So, I mean, I get it. When we had, was it Tom Bogert that told us? No, it was Fabian that told us that it's one of them. I forgot. I don't want to misspeak. But one of them told us that it was Liga MX that pushed to have all the games here in the United States. So, it's something that they want to give the Mexican fans, and obviously a lot of money is involved also, but they want to give the Mexican American fans that root for those teams here because they pack the stadiums also, because this is their one few chance to watch the teams. So look, I like the tournament, and strictly personally as an Inter Miami fan, I love the way things kind of worked out, because I like that the Miami ended up in Leagues Cup, Champions Cup, and that they have kind of a representation in Open Cup with the IMCF2 team, which I'll be watching and rooting for also. So I think it would be awesome. I mean, will they make it far? Probably not. It's a bunch of teenagers. But, I think that's cool that you kind of get to participate in all three tournaments.
Yeah. Another interesting byproduct that I'm starting to notice that I don't know if it's definitely from Leagues Cup, but it's something new, is that MLS players starting to get transferred down to Liga MX teams at a rate, and from regions of the world, especially like the European
Sergio
players.
Ramos just randomly ended up in Monterrey.
Mateus Bogusz just went to Cruz Azul for 10 million plus, and does Cruz Azul get a guy like Mateus Bogusz from Poland, like without the MLS stop? Like, I'm not sure. Joveljic, I think, from Carson is also going down to Liga MX now for, like, I know you laugh every time I say it. I just can't say the other name. But does a guy like Joveljic come from Serbia and go to Liga MX? Like, other than like Gignac, like, how much European pull does that league really get? But these players come to MLS, and I think they become way more familiar with it and become, I think, open to a transfer at a place that they just weren't familiar with in Europe. But after coming here, they kind of see it and they're like, hey, yeah, I can kind of vibe with that down there. So I wonder if we're going to start seeing more players that come into MLS that head down there, that before all this interplay with MLS, the players wouldn't have noticed and wouldn't have decided to go there.
Now, I don't know. I haven't seen how home field's going to work. But I know in the rankings, Cruz Azul is ranked first. So I'm assuming they're going to have some type of hub where they'll be hosting all their games. Inter Miami would be second. So they'll probably host all their games. Then Toluca, Columbus, Tigres, LAFC, Carson Galaxy, Monterrey, Club America, Real Salt Lake, Cincinnati, and so forth. So I'm curious. I have to look a little further into this maybe. But I am curious how
My
that's going to work.
brain's going to get confused. Too many rule changes.
But eventually,
also 11 o'clock at night here on the East Coast, so that could be part of it.
They'll eventually settle on some type of format. And look, I'm looking forward to it. I like this this tournament, and I'm glad that we stayed in the Open Cup just to keep the traditionalists happy. So everybody's kind of happy except for Todd. All right. And then
you need to split. You need to even out the representation of league like and dislike on here, Danny.
Everybody loves the Leagues Cup, though. It's hard to find people that I don't. I could have gotten Fabian on. Fabian is the commissioner of the Leagues Cup. So now one last thing I guess we could touch on, and then we could talk Atlanta if you want, because I want to shit on them a little bit. Did you guys see that we're getting Sunday night MLS from Apple TV? I love that all of a sudden the schedule is a bit staggered, and now apparently they're going to highlight a game and give it a pregame and a postgame, which I'm not sure why they just haven't done that yet. But I love that it'll get a pregame, a postgame, I guess a wrap-up show type thing. What did you guys think about the news that, well, the fact that we're staggering schedules and that now they're kind of doing the whole Monday Night Football type deal. And by the way, if they change the calendar, good luck going against Sunday Night Football. Todd, what do you think about it?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think this is what we had a few years ago where the games were staggered and not so much, everybody plays at 7:30 and then everybody plays at 10:30 Eastern time or 7:30 West Coast time. So yeah, I mean, it's cool that we get different game times and then having a specific night slot for Sunday night soccer. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think that this will help fans watch more MLS games because I'm sure, all you guys travel to the games and everything. It's hard for you to watch multiple MLS games where you go to the stadium. I'm sure traffic's like hell at Chase Stadium or whatever the hell your stadium's called now. I'm sure, it's a pain in the butt getting out of that stadium. I'm sure it's a pain in the butt getting out of the stadium out in LAFC. I forget what you guys named that to. BMO, I think it is.
BMO.
Yeah, it's always going to be the bank. But yeah, it's like
now it's La Bank.
La Bank. So I'm sure, when the East Coast games are going on, when you're out on the West Coast, you're probably driving to the game. So you don't have time to watch those East Coast games. And by the time you get to the stadium, you're not thinking about what happened on the East Coast. You're just focusing on LAFC, what else is going on in the West Coast. And so, you change your slot up, and I think that's going to get more fans involved with the league, more fans engage as opposed to just playing that specific time slot. And the one thing I know I've heard a ton of Union fans and even, us in the media here in Philadelphia, we had said we wanted more afternoon games because it feels like, okay, you're there for a 1 o'clock kickoff, you're done by 4 o'clock, and now you still have the whole night to get whatever you want done, to do whatever you want, as opposed to driving an hour home like I do every Saturday from Chester down to Maryland. And it's like, by the time you get home, it's 1 o'clock. You're like, I'm tired. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to watch any MLS games. So yeah, I think this is a good move by MLS.
Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, more staggering is good. I'd like to see some Friday evening game as well because I think
they're
that's
missing the mark on that.
That's one that like you're not competing against NFL. I mean, that would be a cool spot. But I like the Sunday stagger as well. That's great. You good point with Todd also about and when we go to our games, like it's not just the games. Like we have some pretty epic tailgates. I mean, they usually got the mariachi bands going. They got DJs. They got lots of food stands of just like a lot of DIY. So it's, I mean, forget about traveling the game. It's like a good 3 hours of drinking before we even head into the stadium before the game. So it's like pretty much like the whole Saturday is a wash, like of watching games. So getting some things on Sunday so I can just kind of lay on the couch hungover and watch that. I'm going to be super pumped. Friday night, really pumped. And hopefully we get some more midweek games going on as well with all this extra stuff. So, I mean, I can't really have enough soccer on the TV to watch. So I like it. More staggering, the better for me.
Well, you mentioned midweek games, and at some point, like we were getting Wednesday games, Tuesday games, if I'm not mistaken. Danny, go ahead.
With Open Cup, we'll have that for sure.
Yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday.
I wasn't sure how closely you guys have looked at the schedule since it released, but if you guys weren't aware, they stagger the games like in the afternoon, but for some reason in the summertime, I think it's like in June or July, it just stops. And all of a sudden, all the games start at 7:30, and they do that for the month of June, July, and August, and then they start staggering again. Then they start staggering again in September. I don't know why that is. I think it's very interesting. But yeah, just in case you guys weren't aware, you can go look. There is no staggering once the summer hits. They stop staggering the start times on Saturdays. So I think that's interesting.
And who sings the Sunday night? Who sings the Sunday night theme song? That's got to be like. You think they're gonna get like Bad Bunny on that?
No, they'll get. What's that guy's name that's really popular in country? Morgan
Wallen.
There's no way they're gonna get a country singer to sing. I thought he was talking about this.
Hey, Daniel, I do think on a lot of those Wednesdays in June, July, August, one is that Champions League kind of winds down at the beginning of June, and then they'll have the championship after that. But that should be right around where that is. Also, that whole stretch is probably going to be filled with Open Cup games.
But they're playing games. I just don't know why they don't stagger them.
Mm-hmm.
because they're playing the games, but they're all starting at 7:30 and 8:30. I don't
Well,
understand.
The East Coast 7:30 is going to be 3 hours before the West Coast 7:30, you know, and those are work nights, so like they can't really play anything before 7 or 7:30.
Yeah, but before the summertime, from the end of February till the summertime, we have games. I think it's at 2:00, 5:00, and then so like you have 2 or 3 games to watch before the 7:00 games, and I think that's great. But they do away with it once the summer starts. For example, Inter Miami's first game this season against NYCFC is at 2:00. And they even have a game in Austin. I think it's in March. It starts at noon, which I think is really weird. But they have a noon game in Austin in March. But all right. And then last thing, kits. Have you guys heard absolutely anything about when they're releasing the kits? Because I want to know. I know I saw that Eric, LAFC's got a collared kit. I want to say coming out.
Super clean.
Yeah,
super clean looking kit. Oof.
Philly's not doing anything. I haven't seen anything about Philly.
Just like their off season.
Yeah, they're not giving you new kits or anything. What's going on, Todd? Do they
No
not
new
care about
kits,
you?
no new money.
Yeah, the Union kit rarely leaks. They have a really good committee that keeps things locked down there. So I don't know what your fan bases are involved in the jersey design process, but the Union is. So they call it the Union Collective, and they take fans. Nice. I believe somebody that was a part of the media is involved in that. People in the supporters group. There's about 10 people that design the jersey. They get with the club, and then they also get with Adidas. And
very cool.
Yeah, more
Super
teams
cool.
should do that. And
absolutely,
no. In Miami, all they do is just figure out what Argentina at some point wore, and then they just throw it and make it pink.
And say, yep, this will look good on Messi. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's why we've seen the Union's jerseys, at least in my opinion, look in the top 10 best the last couple of years, just because of this fan collective group that designs the jerseys. I see Tommy saying that Atlanta does it as well. Yeah, more teams should do it. I mean, I feel like, there's so many teams in this league that just do not care about their jerseys. They're like, okay, let's go ahead and whatever Adidas gives us, it's going to be the most bland jersey, the most basic concept design, and let's go ahead and
that's why I don't believe Tommy. I don't believe Tommy.
No, they do have a team that does that, Danny, for Atlanta.
Atlanta has the same kit every single year. And then they're like, oh, but the sponsor letters are gold this year. It's like, get out of here. Like, it's literally the same kit every year. The same 5 stripes going down. I'm sorry. Atlanta is the worst home kit in the league.
Well, speaking of the LAFC kit, that thing looks
clean. Yeah, it's clean.
Look clean.
I mean, it's hard to fuck up black and gold or white and gold. Like it's really hard. I mean, there's just great colors to come up with any sort of scheme together. It's just going to look clean.
I will tell you that I saw the Nashville kit with the goosebumps. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was original. Original.
You see that crew kit? Ugh.
No, but I mean, look at last year's that Charlie Brown crap. I don't know what they're thinking over there. They might have the fans doing it because that I can't imagine that a professional would really design that.
Somebody, no, Adidas does not care. It's the most basic concepts that they come up with, and it's like, hey, here you go, MLS. Nobody cares about MLS, and you guys take what you get. But I guess Atlanta, their fans care about looking fresh down there. Philly Union fans, they definitely care, and they created this collective. More teams need to do it to have better jerseys. I don't know. I like LAFC's jerseys. They're pretty good every single year, but I don't know. There's some teams that miss every single year. And you brought up Columbus, the Charlie Brown look. Yeah, this year's jersey, it looks like slime's running down their jersey this year. It's such a bad look.
Oh, see, I like
Mr. Krabs talking about the Yankees. I mean, the Pittsburghs are classic.
Well, they're classic, and also in baseball, they don't change kits every year. So it's like they have this. They run the same jerseys. I think it's like 5 or 7 years that they have to run with it before they're allowed to change it. And the Yankees just never change it. We literally have new kits every year in football, so I don't get it. And Tommy, I'm sorry, Todd. I didn't know that you were. I thought for some reason it was Nashville. It's Columbus that does the goosebumps.
Oh, okay,
I like it.
Yeah.
I like.
You like that? Gotcha.
I like that. I thought just because of the originality. Because I'm tired of the Atlanta 5 stripes. I want something original.
Well, apparently Tommy said that the 404 kit was the one that was created by the team over there.
Well,
The
I
kick
don't know what that
creators.
is. Okay. Well, do you guys want to poo-poo on Atlanta real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
They have a lot of money, and somehow they spend it on Latela and then a 40-year-old Almiron. Todd, what do you think they're doing with their money? Are they spending it wisely?
Look, I mean, this was always going to be the case with Atlanta United. They had open DP spots. They sold a lot of players last year. Yakamaki's going to Liga MX, and staying with that topic, where we're seeing more and more MLS players going down to Mexico. So, I mean, they had the money to spend, but at the same time, I believe both players, they're overspending for it. And in a Miguel Almiron, who was great here when he was here in his 2 seasons in Atlanta, did well at times with Newcastle United, but yeah, I do believe a little bit over $10 million is an overpay. $22 million right there. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at transfer market, his market values about 10 million euros, which, sorry, I'm sure maybe we have some Europeans in here that can do the calculations, but you're spending $22 million for a player that's rated at 10 million euros. I mean, yeah, it's a massive overpay, but MLS teams have to do this, right? And I think this is going back to the schedule. This is why somebody like Chris Albright said it's more difficult for MLS teams to get good deals for the league done, because, teams can wait for better offers to come in. Teams in Europe don't typically sell their best players or sell players that are good squad players in the wintertime because they want to hold on to those. And so MLS teams are constantly having to overspend. And yeah, look at Atlanta United. I mean, spending $32 million for 2 players that I'm sure are going to help their squad, but yeah, definitely an overpay. And if Atlanta are hoping to get money back for them in hopes to sell, yeah, it's not happening. And Marichuk, yeah, I mean, did well with Atalanta in his first season, half season with Atlanta. Didn't look great, but we see that a lot in MLS where players come in during the season and it takes them a year to adjust to MLS, with all the travel. So many of these players aren't used to that travel. I mean, again, going from East Coast to West Coast, travel is insane in MLS. And Daniel Gazdag in Philadelphia talked about that, where he even said at first he didn't like flying. I mean, they rarely flew in Europe. They're taking trains, they're taking car rides and everything. And comes to America and it's like, what? We have to fly from Philadelphia all the way to Colorado. We have to fly down to Texas. And yeah, I mean, the wear and tear is different on your body. And so it takes players, longer than others to adjust to that long traveling schedule.
Atlanta's going to get buried in the last 10 minutes of the show.
It's only because Tommy showed up, so I feel like we need to give him a
I mean, you might get a call from Tommy to join the show last second.
I was going to say the same thing. He's definitely going to hit one of you guys up.
Eric,
Yeah.
Lath or Brandon Vasquez for 10 mil?
Man, so number one, I guess Brad Guzan, that guy started in the league when the league started, right? How are they spending all this money on guys and they still are rolling out like a 50-year-old in goal? He's been pretty good, but the wheels, I mean, come on, you guys, you're just tempting fate. You don't go on a cross-country road trip without a spare tire in the back. And you're just asking for it to break down on the side of the road and don't know what you're doing. Meanwhile, you just spent all this money on a rebuilt engine. Almiron. So here's another thing too. When players leave Europe and they come back to the teams that they come up on, they always come for a discount. Why are they paying all this money for Almiron? It's this is his boyhood team at this point. This is where you do a solid for your team and you basically convince them that they should just let you go for nothing, and then you show up and go crazy on it. But instead they're $12 million or whatever. This is Atlanta's getting robbed both ways on this one. And if that's one thing, it's man, Arthur Blank, that dude has a magic checkbook, because to just spend this money on things like that, yeah, I mean, man, Almiron, they could have got more when they sold him, and they should have got him for less when he comes back. It's they're just buying high and selling low. So we'll see what happens with him this year.
I mean, Tommy's here.
His name is literally Arthur Blank Check.
Yeah, I guess there you go.
It's that Home Depot money. Chris, do you want to add in? Look, I think that Atlanta overachieved, obviously, because they made it in on decision day. right? They won the 1-game playoff with the 8th and 9th seed, and they went ahead and beat Miami. So they are definitely what everybody's picking to be the team this year, because all of a sudden they got money to spend on top of what they accomplished last year. But I don't know. I really thought that they would do more. I don't know if Latila is getting me excited, but maybe we'll be wrong. Maybe he'll ball out. He has to, because even though it's not our money, it's Arthur Blank's money. That number is going to be on his head the whole season, and people are going to be looking at him, expecting him to produce.
I mean, Tommy brings up a good point, right? I mean, they had all this money because of Giacomakis and Almada, so they didn't spend it in the summertime and the wintertime. They felt that they could get better deals, and I don't know if that's really the case in these two transfers, but they did have the money to spend, so it'll be interesting to see. Will Atlanta United be frauds like they've been the last couple of years, or will they get back to their original routes? We shall see.
All right, so we'll head out of here in a second. Just want to give Tommy a chance to defend himself. Tommy, real quick.
What did I came to see Friends, and you bring violence. All my favorite people on this, and you just are all being mean to me.
Yeah, well, before the show, we started talking crap about Atlanta, and then we decided we were going to save it to the end of the show.
Just sandwich it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So Tommy,
The vibes are high, guys.
yeah.
Hey.
No, I figured they would be.
I mean, there's people waiting at the airport. He just landed like an hour ago.
Were you there?
Yes, there are.
I'm in Ohio, man.
Have
Not
you-
a real fan.
Have you seen
Not a real fan.
Almada at Botafogo?
What's that?
Have you seen Almada playing at Botafogo? Man, that guy, like MLS people do not do good in Brasileiro, but that guy is fucking killing it down there. Like,
That's
super
why we thought he was
impressive.
going to go to Europe. I'm not sure how he ended up back in South America. Well,
He wanted
Tommy,
out. He wanted out. I don't know if you guys saw. I tricked my local radio station in Atlanta. They were teasing. They were teasing a return of a player, and I was like, oh, you know what? Because like I paid Jurgen Damm about $10 to make cameo videos for me, because you got to keep MLS veterans, eating every day. So I tweeted, "Welcome back, Jurgen Damm." Didn't think anything of it. Got a lot of likes. I'm in the shower getting ready, and I'm listening to the radio, and the radio guy's just like, yeah, and I heard we're bringing back Jurgen Damm as well. I lost my shit. Like, I couldn't believe it. And I knew exactly it came from me, and I tweeted him. He's like, yeah, this is your fault. Oops.
you know what the worst part is? That you said you did that to your local radio, but you're in Cleveland, man. That's not your local radio.
Yeah, but whatever. For my team. Potato,
No,
whatever.
Danny is a piece of crap sometimes.
He is, man.
I don't deny it. All right, so Tommy, you do feel good about Atlanta this year?
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, what they got? Click from New England, and he's not even a DP. He was a DP for New England. He's not even a TAM player. What's that?
DC.
Oh, DC. I'm sorry. Yeah, so they got him, and then they still have room for another TAM player. It's exciting. I mean,
So
they can
is this
one more guy? I think they're in good shape.
Is Atlanta Cup winner potential this year right now? Will you be
It
surprised?
has to be. Well, you guys were talking about the money spent. If it's not, it's a major failure. It was like when Falcons signed Kirk Cousins. You pay a guy that much money, you need to make the playoffs, and you don't.
You know I'm a lifelong Vikings fan on this one, too. I don't know if we ever talked about this offline.
No.
But man, Cousins, what a fraud.
Yeah.
His arm just died in the middle of the season. Yeah.
Dude, his arm's always been dead. Like the guy is a contract goat. That's all he can do is like he's gonna go to the Hall of Fame for signing the most like absurd overpaid contract his entire career.
Wasn't he the first guaranteed?
Ryan Fitzgerald.
Wasn't he the first fully guaranteed
Ryan
contract?
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, the first
No,
one.
Deshaun Watson was.
Yeah.
People are gonna eggball us on this one pretty much and start logging off. But
Yeah.
It is Deshaun
All right.
Watson.
Well, Tommy, I appreciate you jumping on to try to defend your 5 strike. Oh, by the way, worst kit in the league, yes?
There's certain teams, like someone said the Yankees. I'm happy that they don't switch that and make it all weird. Save that for your away kits, and then save
I'm
it for
okay
your
with
third.
that. But stop bringing out a new one then.
They have to.
Got to make money.
You have to.
And give him a third kit.
Do you know how
I
many
don't know.
Albarone jerseys are going to get
Reused?
sold? Well, that as well. But I mean, you're going to sell a lot. He's going to be a top 3 jersey guy this season.
Yeah, you guys will qualify for the 3rd jersey again. You'll sell enough kits for it.
Yeah, I saw somebody win an Almiron kit, and they said, "Oh, look, somebody just leaked the new kit." I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's one of the old ones. I don't know how you can tell the difference, but well, Tommy, appreciate you jumping on, and I'm gonna have you on soon so we could talk some Atlanta
next week.
I love talking Atlanta.
Yeah.
All right, Tom.
See ya.
All right.
I love the username. Won't take this slander.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate you guys taking the time to join. We're talking some tournaments. It's all been fun. Let everybody know, Eric, where they could find you on X and all that other places.
Yeah, you can find me, Eric Hultstrom, at X, and I'm also contributing to Pitchside US, which is kind of a part of the old Territorios MLS. It's a bunch of Brazilian guys, and we kind of look at the league and the Brazilian league crossover. A lot of coverage of the Brasileiro along with MLS.
Nice. Todd, the God, let everyone know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. Check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/freekickpod. Check out my Substack, where I do writing and post podcasts and YouTube videos, thefreekick.substack.com. And you guys could have found me last week in Florida, but these 2 frauds on the show didn't want to show up, so...
I don't think people realize that Florida is huge and Orlando is 4 hours away from Miami.
It is.
I would have met you.
Where?
Yeah, we should have. We could have gone up there, Danny. Don't be lazy. Don't be lazy.
I don't have
gone
passes to get in there.
I got you.
Oh, okay. I mean, if that's the case, then we're talking. I don't know. We might have to revisit this next time you come down.
I'm coming down to Miami, so
oh, okay.
don't flake this time.
Definitely. Who flaked?
You're a flaker.
Chris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I'm a
That's
flaker
different.
too. I should have been there too.
All right, Chris. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Well, first, for those of you watching, come on, don't forget, like and subscribe. We're like 10 subscribers away from 900, please. Okay, it's free, 99, 0 cents, $0. You can find me right here at Battered Herons. Okay, go there, and if you want to find me directly, you just put Chris Battered Herons. Don't put the @ thing there. That's it.
All right, and for everybody in the chat, we appreciate you hanging out with us for the last hour and 15. I told Eric, we're probably going to go like 25, 30 minutes, and here we are an hour later. So I apologize, Eric. If you are listening on audio, we appreciate you listening all the way to the end. Please leave us 5 stars, comment, review, all that good stuff. Please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the season starts. And if for those in chat, like I said, appreciate you hanging out with us. You guys are the best part of the show. And we'll be back next week. In 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Well, I already contacted Todd. I think I contacted Eric also. We're going to be doing some season previews for the teams. I'm trying to do it quick hitters, 15, 20 minutes, and it's going to be almost a marathon. I'm doing all 30 teams in 3 days. So, placa, one after the other, and it's going to be a good time. So, MLS marathon before the MLS season starts. So, that should be fun. So, but we'll be back next week with just a regular episode. So, until the next one. Have a good one.